A while ago, I met with a couple who was celebrating 25 years of marriage. And I asked them, what's been the formula for your success these 25 years? What's made you persevere through difficulties in these 25 years? And the husband took the word and he said, Father, it's extremely simple. I take all the important decisions, and my wife makes all the smaller decisions. The funny thing, Father, is that in 25 years, nothing important enough has happened for me to make any decision. I was surprised by a detail in the gospel. When the angel wants to communicate the designs for the Holy Family, the angel always entrusts the decisions to St. Joseph. If you think about it, in the Holy Family, who was holier? Mary was holier. In a sense, she was impeccable. She was conceived without sin. If it depended on our merits, the angel should have spoken to Mary like she did in the past to give her the decisions that she ought to make. But who does the angel communicate to? Who is it that the angel entrusts the fate of the Holy Family? The angel confides in Joseph. All the major decisions are given to Joseph. When it's time to flee to Egypt, the angel speaks to Joseph. When it's time to go back to Israel, the angel speaks to Joseph. So today, brothers and sisters, I want to preach a difficult homily. I want to preach a homily on the roles between husband and wife that were also addressed a little bit in the second reading. But I want to make a case that Joseph and Mary really make a beautiful example of what it looks like to assume these roles. What's the role of Joseph? The role of Joseph and of every father in a household is the role to be the head of the household and the role to be the leader. But I think the best way to understand what it looks like to be the leader of the family is to first understand what does it not look like. The first thing we have to understand is that to be a leader doesn't mean that you're a tyrant or that you're a despotic ruler. But on the contrary, to be a leader means to be someone who is of service and of sacrifice for others. I think that the best example of leadership that really incarnates what I'm trying to express, we see it in those admirable men called the Navy SEALs. Maybe you see in their training and the way that they prepare those who are to be leaders, you know what they teach them? If you're the leader, you eat last. If you're the leader, you take charge of your troops and be sure that everybody is doing well. And only when everybody is doing well, then you can take care of yourselves. So I think that what it means to be a leader is that the man has to be the first one in the household. The first one to make decisions, but also the first one to pray. I think that leadership in the household means that the father is the first one that says, let's bless the meal before we eat. The father has to be the one that says, it's time to go to Mass. The father is the one who has to hold out his rosary and he has to say, we're going to pray the rosary at this time. So when a father is called to be number one, yes, he's called to be number one in decision making, but he's also called to be number one in prayer. Yes, it is true that the father is called to be number one when it comes to decisions, but he's also meant to be number one when things are tense and difficult, to bring a word of wisdom and peace. The father is the one that has to be first to bring wisdom and peace. The father has to be the first one to say, I'm sorry. I did wrong. I'm not perfect, but I want to be better. So what I'm calling out fathers today is don't be afraid of being number one, but be number one in everything. Don't only be number one in making decisions, but be number one in praying, be number one in serving, be number one in saying, I'm sorry. And the interesting thing, and I could be wrong, and you can let me know if you think I'm wrong, but I think that deep down, women desire this type of men. Men that are willing to be number one, but to be number one in everything. And I think women yearn for a man who wants to be a leader and can be a leader, but a leader not for his self-benefit, but a leader that chooses for the best of everyone around them. But I think there's a word too in the readings today for the woman. I think it's interesting to see that in all the decisions that Joseph makes that are difficult, Mary seems to be the one that supports his decisions. The second reading says, wives, subordinate to your husbands. Subordinate to your husbands. I think this is one of the lines that it's hardest to digest today. But let me explain what I think it means, and I'm going to start with what does it not mean? I don't think Scriptures is making a case for women to be pushovers. I don't think Scriptures is making a case for women to be a stepping mat, for just people run over them. No. Women are supposed to be strong counselors, enhancing the leadership of their husbands. But they're also called to be willing to say, if this is your decision, I abide by it, and I give you my encouragement. And I want to give you an example. I know the example is not perfect, but I think it might help. In the parish, Father David is the pastor. I'm not the pastor. I'm the associate pastor. Who makes the decisions? Father David makes the decisions. Who makes the calls? He makes the calls. And that's fine. Does that mean that my role as the second is just to be quiet and go like, yeah, Father, do whatever you want. I'll just subordinate to everything that you do? No. My position is, I have to be a help for him. I have to give him my recommendations, my perspectives. I have to admonish him. When he does an 18-minute homily, I have to be only the one that says, Father, maybe you're getting too excited in your preaching. Not that that's ever happened. But I think that wives ought to be those second in charge that help their husbands with their counsel, their encouragement, and also their fraternal corrections. So today, brothers and sisters, let me finish with a few questions. For the men that are here, how is the Lord calling you to step up in your leadership? Where is it that in the household you ought to be a better leader? Are you truly being the first in everything? Are you being the first in decisions, but also in prayer? Are you the spiritual leader and priest of your domestic church? Are you the first one also to say, I'm sorry? Are you the first one to postpone himself for the good of the community of your family? Ladies, mom, future spouses, future wives, are you those strong counselors to your husbands? Are you those always willing to give your encouragement, your counsel? But are you also willing to obey and subordinate when your husband has made the final decision? Today, brothers and sisters, let us look again at St. Joseph and Mary. The angel entrusts the decisions to Joseph, not because he's holier, but because the angel knows that the head of the family is the husband. And Mary subordinates to Joseph, giving him her encouragement. My desire is that every family at St. Mark's will resemble as much as it can, the Holy Family of Nazareth.